Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Republican Congressman from Virginia and the House Majority Leader, Representative Eric Cantor. And I know that House Republicans, Eric, are holding an interactive forum on jobs today. We want to hear about that in just a moment. But first let's talk about the budget. Majority Leader Cantor, are you all going to do a continuing number of CRs, or are you going to have trouble with freshmen and other conservatives who at some point are going to force a showdown with the president?
Joe, good morning. Good morning, Mika. Listen, I think very clearly we all want to get this thing resolved. And I'm hopeful that this is the last stopgap measure that we're going to pass, and we can get about the business of resolving this year's fiscal issues so we can get on to the work we're supposed to be about for next year.
Yeah, so we've heard reports that freshmen and other fiscal conservatives are growing increasingly impatient with leadership. Is there any friction between leadership and the freshmen, or is that overblown?
Well, I mean, Joe, if you look at the numbers, 75% of the freshman class supported this stopgap measure. So, I think that there is concern throughout the country, just as there exists some concern within our members in Congress that we got to get this done.
Yeah.
You know, listen, we all know that this is all about job creation, and we know that the kind of discretionary cuts in these CRs, it pales in comparison to the problem. So as we've talked before, the Republican budget will reflect our commitment to tackling the real issues of entitlement reform, and I think most people want to get on to that business because that's really how we're going to turn this economy around and begin to see jobs again.
And I got to say, Mark Halpern, we've talked about entitlement reform and tackling the big issues. I've got to say, over the past several weeks, it has been striking how the Republican leadership has stepped forward and started speaking responsibly about these issues, and I just wonder when the president follows.
Well, it's an excellent question. I think that he's going to let the Republicans go first. It's then
what are you smirking about, Heilman? I'm not setting him up. No, this is fascinating.
Going to be the president's moment. He's insisting Republicans go first.
He's doing what you said he should do about a year ago.
Could you ask the congressman?
He's a majority leader. Let's stop interrupting.
Given that you all are going to go first and should be applauded for it, from your perspective right now, just as a matter of analysis, what do you think the likely month or 2-month window is where you'll be able to strike a deal if one's to be struck on entitlement reform and tax reform? We're talking about the spring, summer, fall, next year?
Well, that really is a great question, and where is the sweet spot? And we're going to be unveiling our budget next month. The Budget Committee under Paul Ryan is hard at work right now, trying to get straight on the numbers and really the prescription on how we're going to deal with these entitlement reforms. And let's just say this, the bottom line is we're going to protect today's seniors and those nearing retirement. But for the rest of us, 54 and younger, we believe strongly that we've got to come to grips with the fact that if we're going to save these programs for the next generation, they're going to look a lot different. And so I'm hopeful once this document comes out, once we pass it in the House, that we'll see some reaction on the part of the president and the Democrats in the Senate, because so far what we've heard out of Leader Reid is that Social Security doesn't even have a problem. So we really, I think, need to be very honest with the people, confront these problems, and then get onto the issues, as you suggest, of tax reform, because all this is about how we're going to attract more business to start investing here to create jobs. That's what all this is about. This is not just we want to go and cut programs that may be very laudable in their intent. We're trying to do this so that we can reinstill some confidence in the private sector to see jobs created.
Yeah, so, John Heilman, so no problems, according to Harry Reid, with Social Security or cowboy poetry, right?
Those two things are both big favorites of
sacrosanct.
Senator Reid's. I want to ask Congressman Cantor two questions about the long-term question in terms of following up on Mark's question. You guys are commendably talking about taking the lead on entitlement reform. I'm curious as to whether Republicans are going to be at all open in those discussions to either taking on significant cuts in defense spending or to doing anything on the tax side that Democrats will be happy with, which is to say, are Republicans going to be in any way open to increasing revenues?
Well, what you've seen, I think, in the short-term discretionary discussions we've been having is that defense has been on the table. And I know I've said all along that everything ought to be on the table. Secretary Gates has said that the Pentagon also needs to learn to do more with less. We just have to. That's the reality here. I think long-term, in terms of the tax debate, the president has said he wants to bring down corporate rates because there's a sense that it is injuring the competitiveness of our country and its businesses. So I do think that we can see eye to eye on that. Obviously, the devil's in the details. We want to broaden the base. We want to ensure that we are competitive within the other industrialized countries in the ratings. And so I do think that there's some common ground. Dave Camp and the Ways and Means Committee is out there already with hearings, and I can see some commonality in where we're trying to head. Obviously, big issue that we're going to try and focus on.
All right, Congressman Dr. Jeffrey Sachs has a question for you.
Congressman, hi. I have a couple questions. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
First, you were quoted as saying that we have to cut the ocean agency, what we call the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, because we can't afford it. That's the agency that monitors tsunamis. That's the agency that monitors earthquakes. Were you quoted right? Because that can't be right.
Now listen, let's look at the facts here. The facts are that NOAA suffered one of the biggest cuts in the last several years of any agencies. And so what we said is back 2 years ago, it received a huge bump up, like a 25% increase in taxpayer money. And I think in this current year, it is allotted over $4 billion. What we did is we allowed for half of the big bump up to still stay in place at NOAA. But there is no prescription in the language allocating those funds saying that NOAA should or shouldn't take away the emphasis or take away monies from programs that protect the safety and well-being of our citizens. And if the point is that we think that we ought not have early warnings for hurricanes or tsunamis, that's just not true, and that the facts really don't bear that out.
Well, Congressman, they're going to have to squeeze some absolutely crucial monitoring systems under these budgets that are being proposed right now. So I hope you take another look at that. And I was wondering, that notion. Now listen to what you're saying. You're saying that there's no other aspect of the operations of that agency that could actually use some efficiency and could implement some things that could save some money. The whole aim here in this town is to do what every American is having to do. That's to find ways to be more efficient and to do more with less. That's the purpose here. Well, Congressman, you said everything's on the table. I was wondering whether going after some of the income of the billionaires is also on the table, because that's the one thing that seems never to get discussed, that we have the richest people in the world enjoying more wealth than ever before because of all of the tax breaks, all of the loopholes, all the money parked in the Cayman Islands. Are you going to go after that also?
Well, absolutely. If we have people intentionally evading our tax system, absolutely. But listen, that's where I think the president and we Republicans can see eye to eye. We want to bring down rates. And in order to do that, we're going to have to simplify this code, which means to address some of the loopholes. You're absolutely right.
All right, and Congressman, before you go, tell us about the Interactive Jobs Forum. What's going to be happening today?
We're going to have, Meek, individuals who are running some of the very largest companies in this country to some of the smallest, and they're coming to Washington, and we're going to listen to these job creators to hear what it is that they want to see happen so that they can invest and create jobs. We're going to have an interactive element to this. There are going to be several remote locations. There's going to be a live Twitter wall, and it really, for the first time, I think, is a forum that's going to be dedicated to members of Congress listening to job creators rather than speaking to see how we can spend taxpayer dollars to create jobs. And that's the difference. That's the change in culture that we're trying to affect here in Washington.
All right.
That sounds fascinating.
Can you find it?
I'm looking for it. We're very concerned.
Is that it? Is that it? Is that it?
What,
with the big muscles?
Oh, there? It is. We're very concerned about one thing, Mr. Majority Leader.
Yes.
They're very concerned about this picture that we showed earlier. Let's see if we have it here in the paper. Yeah, put the picture up for the Majority Leader.
We did the morning papers.
It's a picture of McCarthy and Aaron Schock flexing
honey.
with this PX90 whatever. So you're not getting mixed up in that riffraff, are you?
I have not seen the picture that you're referring to. But listen, we're all about good health here, and I remember we had a little stint out in the mall, and we look forward to seeing you out there again.
Yes, we're doing another one. I'd love for you to show up, but just don't do that thing.
My heart was beating like a rabbit. McCarthy is like flexing muscles. You know, Aaron Schock, he'll show his abs to anybody. I just wanted to stop right now. Well, listen, thank you so much for being with us. Good luck with your online jobs forum. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Coming up.